So today we're talking to Jason Chan, old friend of mine. He's the vice president of sales and marketing at Rakuten Super Logistics. And
Hi.
yeah, so today I've known him a long time, and he is a great communicator. And he's always a big smile when he comes into a room. He always lights up a room when he walks in. And I'm going to brag about him a little bit because I'm a fan of
Oh,
his.
it takes one to know one, man.
Oh yeah, but so today the topic I wanted to talk about today was creative communication and the power of sharing. Is kind of what we're starting with. We'll see what this ends up being, because I like bobbing and weaving and trying different things. But why don't you first of all, Jason, why don't you tell people about what it is that you do?
What do? I walk on water, I eat delicious things, and I live a good life.
It's funny
But
because I'm
yeah,
tapping into something, because I know that you're out there and you're always talking, but there are people out there who say, "What does he do?"
I guess I have to actually divulge the secrets now. So my main 8 to 5 is I do run a sales and marketing team for a company called Rakuten Super Logistics. So we're in the third party fulfillment and logistics business. So people are like, what does that mean? Basically, we're the elves in the background. So when you buy something online, that could be Alex's glasses or Jason's T-shirts or vitamins, things people are buying now. Think of even toilet paper, board games, all of that stuff. When you're buying it from, let's say, alexraffi.com, you buy, a game of checkers. Alex probably, or actually, if you did have this company, you should contract with us. But we'll use as a hypothetical. You'd contract with a company like us. We'd actually hold all of your inventory. We'd bring it in from your manufacturer, usually from Asia. So we'll transfer it all the way from Asia, bring it to the States, then truck it around to our facilities. Once it's in our facilities, we'll have a direct integration either through API or through your shopping cart. The order will come straight to us. And then my team, the elves, will basically go on the shelves, pick that product, put it in a box as quickly as possible, get it off onto a truck, whether, USPS, UPS, FedEx that you're used to, and then hopefully it'll arrive at your house in a couple days. So everyone's used to shopping online now, and if COVID's taught us anything, is that people are shopping online even more than ever. It's just that once you click buy, no one ever thinks about what happens until they actually receive that package on their doorstep. And all of that steps in between really is the business I'm in. And so the faster, quicker, cheaper that we can get that to you, obviously the lower price that you'll pay for buying the item, one, and then two, the quicker you'll be able to get that instant gratification of actually getting that item you want. So whether that's toilet paper, literally, a lot of swimwear going out right now, but I almost feel like I'm on Shark Tank a lot of times because I can tell which products are moving or not.
Yeah.
I was literally looking at, I see some goofy stuff. I saw a double umbrella hat.
Oh,
and
I just had that conversation with a neighbor. She was about the umbrella hat. How weird is that?
It doesn't sell. I can tell you that. The umbrella. I don't even know when it was invented, but I'm assuming for 100 years or more we've had the umbrella in its current form generally, and it works. And so I'm all about being innovative and creative and different. But sometimes you go to market and the market tells you I didn't need that, and that's what we're realizing with
Yeah.
the umbrella hat.
Well, I think that what's interesting is I think that you are a big champion for building good teams, I think. And I think that it sounds to me that you have a pretty great team and you treat them pretty well, or at least you might not admit that, but it seems to me from what I've seen. I mean, there's costumes and there's parades and crazy stuff. So I think that's kind of neat. And I think that's important too. I think, especially when you're trying to communicate what it is that you're doing. Because I mean, you could explain, like you just explained what you're doing, in just a short period of time and what you guys do over there.
Yeah.
There's an elegant way to do that, or a more interesting way to do that. So what do you do to try to build a good culture and a good team in your organization?
I mean, I think it kind of starts with yourself. So I know that people will model my behavior, model my attitude, and et cetera. So, it starts from when I'm stepping foot in the office. Yes, I have the same. I have to pay taxes like everyone else. I have to go to meetings like everyone else. I have to. It's not that I'm immune to, the drudgery of a typical workday or our lives, but it's how you look at them.
Right.
So, I don't let those things dictate what I'm going to do. And likewise with COVID, we're all this is not an enviable situation. It's nothing anyone planned on. If we had, I probably would have built, a bowling alley and a mall or something, in my backyard. But, you know, life throws these curveballs at you, and how are you going to deal with it? So, one of the things that I'm famous for with my team is we always try to go all out at the quarter. One, to celebrate what we accomplished in the last quarter, and then two, to refocus our attention for what we need to do in the next quarter. And it very easily could be held in a hotel ballroom. You go there with your, here's the PowerPoint, here's the graph of the sales, and here's your rubber chicken. Thank you, we did it, and we've all been in them. But is that something you look forward to? Is that something you appreciate and enjoy? No. So I said, we're so lucky. We're blessed to be based in Las Vegas. There's some incredible properties here. Why don't we get a penthouse? And instead of rubber chicken, name whatever type of food. And if it's, one person says Indian, another one says Italian. I said, great, Indian for lunch, Italian for dinner, steaks the next day, whatever. And everyone knows that, one, they have a fingerprint on it, so they have some personalization, they have some buy-in into it. It's not just Jason dictating what we're doing. Two, they realize, whoever would have thought 99% of meetings are held either in, normal conference room, boardroom, or at the hotel, or in your own office. Those are we've kind of been conditioned to that. And once they saw that, they said, what if we did, a mountain retreat or a beach, or why not? And of course, those things cost money. And you're like, well, that's just too expensive. And again, that's a small-minded mindset. It's like, well, actually, if you would like that and you want to spend that money, then that means you need to bring in revenue that'll support that sort of expense. So I challenged the team. I said, you know what? If you want to go to Disneyland, if you want to go on a private jet, no problem. That means we just need to deliver X amount. Can we do it? And those are the kind of things that my team, I was fortunate. I was able to take my best sellers. We literally went and had lunch in LA on a private jet, because they said they would deliver the numbers. We worked on the deals. We made it happen. And people inevitably, in an Instagram type world, they'll see, oh, isn't it nice? The company's just flush with cash, or they do this. No, we work hard. It took 3 solid months of real working, showing up 8 to 5, and after 5, you eat dinner, and then guess what? We're back on the phones or the computers or whatever. And but we had a goal. We were marching to the same tune, and we were able to work with our teammates to make sure that if you need a little bit of help, that help was there, and you got the assistance you needed to succeed. And probably the last thing about that is our assumption is that we're going to win. We're going to succeed. We're going to win. When we get in front of our clients or potential clients, we have a very high expectation, and as a result of that, a very high close rate. Just because, one, I like to do business with people that I would like to have lunch with. So like, Alex, I would have, you asked me literally about joining this yesterday. I would love to have lunch with you, coffee, whatever. And in the absence of that, having a chat with you would be an awesome thing. So, I did this in a heartbeat. And likewise, the people I hire are people that I could have lunch with. These are people that I would enjoy. And it's not so much about me. It's that I know that if I enjoy it, other people are going to enjoy them, and they're going to want to do business with them also. And when you it's like baking a cake. You have a good recipe, good ingredients. Guess what? The cake's going to turn out pretty good. And yes, you have to watch the oven, and yes, you have to watch your measurements or whatever. But inevitably, that recipe's been around for hundreds of years. So I'm not reinventing the wheel necessarily. Just trying to add a little bit of flair to it.
Well, I think valuing people, showing that you value them, it really increases the performance in general. And having a creative outlook on your leadership, leadership feeds itself if it's done correctly. Like, good leadership inspires good work, and then the good work inspires better leadership, and it just kind of becomes this kind of circular thing. And there's this thing about being you have to have a bit of an ego, and you have to have a very serious and understanding and high expectations in a business when you're running a department. But you have to show empathy, and equal empathy, and have an understanding of the needs of your team, and stop and listen and absorb it and do things to show that they're important. And then that's how you lift everybody up. When people, then people aren't waiting in the parking lot for 8 o'clock to hit before they walk into the building. You know what I mean? They come in early. They come in when they're ready, because they know it's going to be a good work day. They know that they're going to come in and they're feeling valued, and they're willing to give you their best, not for just a paycheck. It's because they enjoy the environment, and they enjoy the culture that they're in. And there's a lot of value in building a good culture. And it's funny, being a nice guy is good business.
Yeah,
It just
of
is.
course.
And I think that sometimes that's missed. I think a lot of times I have a pretty strong team. I've had a lot of these people with me for a long time, and we did this thing a while back where where we basically had people stand and on against the wall, and then what we did is we filled out cards. Each person wrote a thing that they respected about that person, and then we posted it around them, and then we took a picture, and it was this thing, and then they got to keep all the cards. And this is what your team values in you. Now you have them on cards, right?
Yeah,
And then at the end, they had me and Brian do it because we weren't planning on doing it. And one of the cards, I'll never forget it. And it's funny because it's going to take us back to something I wanted to ask you about too. Is what they wrote. Somebody wrote on the card said, "Alex always has our back," and that's something that I carry with me and I think about all the time. That is something that you have to earn. That is something that people just don't give it to you for a title because of your title. It doesn't matter that you're the boss. It doesn't matter that you sign checks. It matters that you're showing something. That's when people start respecting you in that way. And I think that's an important thing going forward. Anyway, and that brings me to kind of a little bit about our old friend Laird.
yeah,
And he was that kind of guy, and he treated people really well. And you and I are proud recipients of the Nobel Award. Um,
absolutely.
that it's named after what he got. It was an award that was designed and it was offered to people that give back in the community. And to be honest, Jason, you're always up on there telling people about new information in the community, of things they should know, places that need support. You're always out there and you're talking about it. And you take people like, sometimes you're in a Learjet, but doing, but but you're getting to these, you're doing some great things out there and sharing some great information that's really valuable to people, and I think that's really important. So yeah, so that brings me to kind of the power of sharing portion that I wanted to talk about. What is your view on, because sometimes people say, "Oh, look at him, he's talking again. Oh, look at him, he's telling me about this thing again," and people think it's a narcissistic thing to do, but in truth, sharing is how we all learn from other people and are inspired because of what we see other people do. And if nobody shared
100%.
anything, you wouldn't know anything, right? What are your thoughts?
Agreed. 100%. Well, first of all, and this headset's masking it, but I have really big ears, so I've got two big ears, which means that I hear a lot of things, and as a result of that, whether it's community events or someone needing help or whatever, I'm just trying to share the news. Inevitably, I know that I have a following, I have a voice in the community, and I can't help but, irrespective of what you may think of me, I can't see someone suffering, whether it's a kid, whether it's a domestic abuse situation, whether it's a hungry person in any state. If there's something I can do personally, I'll do it personally. If I think it's something beyond me, I'm gonna need help, and I'm gonna call out to my tribe, my community, to whoever, to say, hey, I'm shining the light on a situation here, and if you're able to help, please. And if you can't, no problem. And you don't want to, you're too busy, whatever, no problem. There's no pressure behind the ask ever. But I do know that at 100% of the times I never asked, I never got anything. And so, it would be a shame, and I'd be even more remiss not to use my platform, my voice, even my ears, to find a solution to the problems you have.
Right.
And if you can marry in business, if you can marry in social interactions, even the better. Which is, why we originally met through the chamber, and that's where we know Laird from. At least that's where I knew Laird from. You have this good core group of people that, one, these are business warriors, superstars, rock stars, whatever. They're amazing just in business. Two, they're amazing people. In addition to whatever business success they've had, they've also found a way in which to give back. And when you take these two things together, plus they happen to be great conversationalists, great people you just want to meet. You talked about the topic of learning and sharing. They have hobbies that I don't. They know things about stuff that I don't. And when you kind of put these things together, I feel like this is like a Power Rangers thing together. You take business success, you take community talent, and you take amazing personalities. Amazing. It gets back. It's so funny because a listener could easily say, "Didn't you just say this about good ingredients makes a good cake?" Well, guess what? The same applies to our social networks and what we're doing for the good we do. And why is it such an easy message? Because it's a lifestyle. This isn't an act we do today. It's not that we can't go be a good volunteer today, post 100 pictures of us on Instagram, and it'll look like your Mother Teresa. But the way you win an award, and it's not about winning the award, but it's the action that got us the award of being able to recognize Laird and the Noble Award, is the fact that day in and day out, this is a lifestyle for us. We're there to help people in need. If you care about cancer, if you care about hunger, whatever your cause, then help with it. I'm not trying to force you on my cause versus another cause or whatever. If we obviously know all the good work you've done with St. Baldrick's, obviously a very valiant cause, and everyone has their own, pet charity or pet cause that they want to go after.
Right.
Wonderful. That's a beautiful thing. And when people give me a call for help, or I give people a call for help, it's a beautiful thing that we answer the phone and not only, Alex, how are you? I care about you as a human being, and because I care about you, if you need a donation or a clippers for St. Baldrick's. By the way, I could actually start doing some shaving now because COVID's given me some experience. I think we've gotten a lot better at this.
You blew it. Now I'm going to make you do it.
Okay, I guess we're gonna. Well, truthfully, actually, I don't know if you know this story. I'll be quick on this. We won't go on it forever. I actually messed up my own hair. I was using my shaver, and there was an attachment that you could lift up and shave your sideburns. I was like, oh, cool. So I lifted up and shaved myself for the first time, and it pulled my hair, and I freaked out, and I went up instead of down. So half of my hair was just straight up, and I had this line, and my wife was like, stop, don't touch anything. But at this point, of course, there's no clippers to be had in all of America. I sold a kidney, and anyway, I have a clipper now.
That's
And my wife, who is my angel, evened it up, and now I look somewhat presentable now.
Yeah, you definitely
And
don't
if
deserve
not,
your wife. That's for sure.
yes, I married very, very well. I'm a fortunate man,
And
and that's probably good.
And you have some great kids too. I think that's fantastic
I
too.
do.
Yeah, you got some great kids.
Good.
But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say about the sharing that, look at you and me. We're in the middle of the day, 3:19. It's 100 degrees outside. We're inside on fast internet connections, on
You look
good
like you're
equipment.
outside. You're outside. There's an airplane.
Fooled you. But I mean, we've got air conditioning. We've got, one of my passions really is hunger. And, I see hungry kids. Luckily, we have never had to worry about being hungry.
Yeah.
But our biggest question around it is, like I said earlier, is it Indian or Italian or Chinese today? Not, are you going to have food or are you going to have enough food? And so when you talk about sharing, yes, there are obviously skills that we can share, but something as simple as a meal, something as simple as the knowledge on how to, I do lots of mock interviews, resumes, etc., for people looking to get jobs.
Right.
And the reason is those skills. It's almost like teaching a man to fish, and they'll eat for the rest of their lives. Yes, it starts in the very small sense. And yes, if I've got an extra meal, by all means, have it. I've got more than I could ever need. Most of our circle, actually all of our circle, we're just, are you wearing red or blue today? It's not, do you have clothes? I mean, it's the amount of, need in this world is huge and incredible. And we're so fortunate. So, it's nothing off the skin of our backs to help out where we can. We're in a position, we have an ability, and we also have a platform and voice. So I take that as a huge responsibility to help where we can.
I had this.
Simple as that.
I've had this particular conversation with Laird many times, and he was a
Yeah.
very big supporter of mine personally. And he used to, every year he'd show up in his weird little elf or leprechaun outfit at my shaves, and he'd be waving the check. He'd wait for the hair to be half gone, then he'd wave the check, and he'd give me, and he'd pay, and he'd do it there. And he was a fantastic guy. And I remember speak about, we're talking about creative communication. When you got the award, it was great. It was a great day. And when you walked up there, you brought a giant pair of shoes with you. So talk about why you did that, because that's what I'm talking about. Is you didn't just win an award. You wanted to make people remember the reason for the award. I think you did that to inspire other people to strive for that award as well. So what was the reason for this shoe?
I did. I'll get to the shoes, but I want to talk about Laird real quick. And just that, in that vein of creativity, he was a unique guy. The first time I met him, the very next day at my office, I had a handwritten card from him.
Right.
If you knew him also, he always had a signature line of "You're the best."
Yeah.
And likewise, if anyone ever asked about him, no one had a mean thing to say about Laird. They were all positive. And what that means to me is that one, he was unique. There was no like Laird number two or a Laird mini me. It was Laird. You knew who this guy was through and through, and you could count on certain things. And like his presence at St. Baldrick's Charities, like his presence at many charities for that matter. But he was a creative guy. He wasn't just Joe Schmo that could have walked down the street. When Laird walked down the street, uh, we knew it was Laird, and happily, if anything, we're out there with open arms welcoming him. Likewise, you're going to see that with an Alex Raffi and me with these ocean shirts. If I can't be on the ocean, how many people outside of Hawaii have a shirt like this? There's not many. Walking around Henderson, I've got a yeah, the Hawaiian shirt. But that's a signature style. We all could wear a white T-shirt every day, and functionally, did you? And not to make everything about fashion, but it proves a point that functionally, if the whole point was just to cover your body, we could all wear a plain Hanes T-shirt, and functionally, we've checked out the box. But obviously, you choose a Golden Knights hat versus a Oilers or whoever,
Well, you were
and
representing Las Vegas, and I thought I'd have to represent Las Vegas a little bit as well, with my hat. So.
yeah. Yeah, and so it's the creativity is just about being different. If you're just the vanilla, and if you're pat answers, school. I obviously am a fan of school, but I will say the disservice of school is we're taught how to follow a model, and that we almost regurgitate. What is a X? An X is a blah blah blah, and if you don't get that answer right, then you're marked down. And as a result of that, you could be conditioned, pretty early on to say that what does a bird look like? And we're all used to a certain bird, whereas if there's tropical birds and Arctic birds and all of these different things. And so the creativity in it is, what is your mark? What is your signature? What is different about you? Even when I look at, resumes, as simple as they are, we all know a name, a phone number, email address, whatever. But the format in which you do it, and in the way in which you present it, and is there any flair to it?
Yeah.
Most people see them as 95% of them all generally look the same. You all filled out the same. You went to Google, you looked for a resume template, you filled in your information and personalized it, but it's not really personalized. And that's why the 5% are they're so different stand out. And that's what we notice when we meet people, whether it's at a chamber mixer. You're going to meet 100 people. How many are going to stand out to you that you're really going to want to spend some time with? 5, 10, something like it's some proportion. It's the cream of the crop. And that's where you and I have been so lucky to meet the friends and business associates we have. But regarding the shoes specifically, so Alex and I both won the Noble Award. That's named after Laird Noble Sanders, it's effectively the chamber member of the year. And my joke was that Laird had big shoes to fill, and so I brought a pair of blues or size 22 shoes,
Huge shoes.
and I signed them on. Yeah, they're 22. I mean, they're huge, and I signed them. And now for every winner going on, we'll pass them on. And the point of it is that to take something as simple as a trophy, we all generally have an idea of what a trophy looks like. Yeah, we get that if it's a soccer one, it might have a little soccer ball. But the idea is, some metallic thing, some sort of base, and some words written across it. And I said, Laird is a special guy. Laird was unique. He was creative. How can we honor him with something different? Yeah, and it had big feet. So you had the joke there, obviously, for the speech, but beyond that, it's a conversation starter.
Right.
Because winners from me going on now will have those in their office. When people come in and they're like, "Wow, do you play basketball?" Or do you have do you have big feet? You're like, "No, I won this because of the award," and you explain that. And I thought that was a nice way in which to extend his legacy, so that we continue to talk about him, as well as recognize the good works. If you happen to have a pet project or pet charity that really motivated you and created the actions in which you won this, what a great platform for you to then kind of open the conversation to say. And the reason I won was I've been raising money for St. Baldrick's for X amount of years. So in total we've raised $5,000. Actually, you've done much more than that. But the gist of it is,
we're gonna hit $1 million next year. We're gonna hit $1 million.
Oh, well, take it easy, Mr. Seven Figures. Take it easy. But
The kids need
so
help.
what is that great about? Yeah, I mean, I talk in threes a lot. So it's one, we get to extend his legacy. Two, we get to remember a great friend. And three, you then get to work on your pet project or cause to really get at the dollars, resources, volunteers that it needs. So just a way of thinking. People talk about thinking outside the box. I'll tell you in general, and I think you could agree with me that most people don't. We all know the phrase. We're taught that, but the idea of getting outside of your testing or quizzing mentality from school to say, forget about what's on the page. What would we create if we didn't have the constraints or whatever we think is normal? I think I'd like to say it's actually, here's how I preach it to my team. It's a healthy disrespect for the status quo.
Right.
So
Right.
we understand where the status quo is and we understand where the line is, but when we're not rule breakers, but I will ride that line all day long to know exactly what are the constraints are, what I'm confined by, and then think of how creative can I be within this space or within that budget or within the manpower or whatever you have. So
I
it's
still
not to just be some artsy fartsy. Yeah, like I want Rolls Royces everywhere. No, we live in a world of budgets. We live in a world of you have X amount of people, but be as creative as you can. And whether if you're a one man shop, nothing stops you. You
right.
might have to work harder. You might have to be even more creative, but don't see constraints on yourself.
Well, I love to deconstruct anything in regards to that's considered creative, and one of the ways I think, and you do this naturally, I think, and when you're communicating with people, I've seen you in the room, kind of talking to people, is there's a clear awareness of the tone of the room and of the the mood of the people in the room. And I think that one of the things is you don't have to come up with ideas on how to communicate effectively with people on your own. You need to get fed off of the people you're speaking to. And a lot of times, the people that are around you and in your conversations, you'll hear something and it will open up a door that you will be able to take it to the next level and then make it memorable. Laird was fantastic at this. Laird would be able to talk. He would,
Absolutely,
you could see his brain working while he's listening because he always listened. He listened so closely to every word you said that he'll see you a week later and he'll ask you about that thing you guys talked about. And he always remembered, and then he could find maybe a cute, interesting little quirky way of making fun of it or adding a little levity to it and then lifting it up. And it was always about lifting things up and always also about thinking, you said that reminds me of this person. And then he would bring
totally.
that person into the conversation. And then so it's basically you're almost painting a picture with a conversation. And I think that's a big part of what makes the conversation memorable, and which is super important. It's not just about throwing out data and saying thank you and then leaving. It's about, let's see if we can turn this into a little bit of poetry in the way that we communicate, because then everybody remembers that and you carry that with you a little bit further, and that's the important thing, and
I know
that's
why Debbie married you. It's your poetry.
yes.
I thought we were just talking, but you're giving me poetry.
I just said the word, man. I'm not being a poet, but I do love poetry.
That's
I do love poetry, and I think poetry actually is really important. It should be required learning in school, because the best thing about, see, that's a really good example, is you take a thought and an idea, you write it, and it's not about rhyming, but you write it in a way that isn't literal, that forces you to kind of imagine what it is that you're trying to say. And I think that's some, just like the shoes. Okay, when you did the shoes, you didn't just bring the shoes up and explain what they were for. Even when you lifted them up, you banged them on the counter, to
yes.
basically make everybody pause and realize that you're about to say something important, right? That was done on, you might have done it naturally just because you're a good communicator, but the reason you did it is to say, we're going to talk about something important now. And
This is something serious. Yeah.
right. And I think that's kind of the thing I'm talking about, is with creative communication. Some people need to, and yeah, I hate to bring up politics, but I think politicians, their job, partially, aside from making good decisions and voting on things, is to lift up the community they represent. with their ideas and their words, and to listen, because you need to understand what the community wants and use those words to lift people up as well. So I think that's something that's really needed and important. Leadership is just as important as anything else. Creativity for me hits all areas, but creativity and leadership is so important, is to think of it in terms of a service. You should be you should serve through your leadership. You should serve through everything that you do, because it comes back to you. And it's not,
Absolutely.
you see, humility is, some people are like, well, no, I don't, I'm the boss, I need to be the boss. Or if I'm too sensitive, people aren't going to respect me. And it's just the opposite. People respect you more when you show your softer side and you take some time to listen. And like Laird always did say this, I remember this. The main thing he said to me, I never forgot, was everybody is going through something. You need to always think everybody's going through something. So whatever your opinion is, because somebody said something, realize there's an entire life behind that opinion, and that there's things you need to consider. Don't just have snap judgments about people. Take some time and learn and ask. And if they say something stupid, ask them a little bit more about it. Maybe there's a reason you think it's stupid, but coming from their perspective, maybe it's not so stupid. And there's, and that's really open-minded, and that's hard to be that open-minded.
I was about to say, damn, Alex, you're a Mother Teresa compared to me.
I'm not saying that I can.
Laird was.
No,
Yeah.
Laird was, but I'm not saying I'm like that, because I used to be an editorial cartoonist, and my job was to piss people off. So and my brain still goes there, right? But it's good to just think of that sometimes and do your best. We're all trying to be our best person, right? We're trying, as much as possible.
Let's assume so.
Yeah,
har. I kid.
We're faking it pretty good, my friend. But you are definitely one of my favorite humans. That's for sure.
Likewise. And you knew that.
And so I think we're getting close. We've been talking for about 35 minutes, and I think, although we're super interesting, we could go on.
Nobody wants to watch us forever and ever, of course. Of course.
I'm going to give you like some final thoughts, if you want to share some final thoughts, and then maybe give people some information, a little bit more information about your organization.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it by all of our laughs and cheers, but I actually attended a Zoom funeral for my own aunt this morning.
I actually was watching that a little bit this morning. I saw it on my phone. I was watching it for a little while.
I think the appropriate response is thank you, or it's weird. I mean, what do you death does not get more normal. And if anything, it hits home the fact that, no day's promised to any of us. So as miserable as it may be to lock in your own house, we're alive, we're breathing, we're able to do this video chat. Just imagine 20 years ago without, the speed of internet, or trying to do these things, or, the amount of entertainment we have, the amount of learning we have. You talked about sharing. I learned how to make enchiladas. I've never made enchiladas in my life. I've eaten plenty of them. I love them, but nothing got in me. Yeah, but nothing got into me that said, let's learn how to make them.
Right.
My friend happened to host a webinar on Instagram Live, and all of a sudden now I'm making enchiladas. And, I cut sashimi fish the other day from a different class. I decided, let me learn more about cooking. Likewise, I happen to have kids. I work a lot, and, it's always been a crutch of sorts. If you really want to look in the mirror to say that, I'm busy, I've got to provide for my family, etc. You can't. There's no excuse not to have family time now. You've got unlimited opportunity to know each other. And probably one of the biggest growth opportunities for me has been that, typically I would just say work. I'm working. What does that mean? Does that mean a meeting? Does that mean going through budget? And now, because my kids are here with me, I'm able to show them a lot of these tips and tricks, or what I'm doing in actual minutia, instead of under this big, word saying I'm working. And, because what's the whole point of them going to education? At some point, whether it's owning their own business or working for somebody else, all of us have a great view into be able to showing this, and we'd want to give our kids any leg up that we're able to.
Right.
So what a precious opportunity for us to bond together just as a family. Two, to teach any, whether it's changing a tire or fixing I don't know, dishwasher or whatever. As a matter of fact, one of the things I learned from you was the hooks on the to light your house up. Alex has a trick. You should ask him about it later. When you come to my house, I've got all those hooks now. I bought them. Alex actually hand does them.
Yeah.
I started by hand and I got tired, so I went and bought them. And
Well, I didn't know they
to
made
put
them. Otherwise, I would have done that.
man. Anyway, this is a time to be creative. This is a time, if there's something you don't like doing in your life, change it. And that doesn't mean quit your job tomorrow if it's work. It's that, try to, like my job, for instance, is not philanthropy. I'm not in the business of philanthropy. I love philanthropy. I love helping out. I told you about feeding kids. But as part of those quarterly kickoffs I told you about, where we go rent a penthouse and talk about, what kind of lofty sales goals we have, one of the days I always dedicate to service. So, this past one, we actually went to Catholic Charities and went and served the homeless there. It was a passion project of mine, and I brought my whole team into there. Some of them excelled at cooking, some excelled at serving, some excelled at cleaning. You basically were able to find what pulled your heartstrings best, and inevitably, all of our combined work really helped help that effort. So, summation of all this, so we don't go on forever. One, life's short. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to enjoy. If you don't have a hobby, find a hobby. Find some way to occupy your time that you are contributing to society. If you're not, and you're just what I described as that kind of plain vanilla, what's the point? What are you doing? And that's not a call to suicide. The reason why you're brought on this earth is because you have talents, you have skills, you have knowledge that needs to be shared. You're a creative person that needs to share whatever that is. And if you haven't found out what that is, no problem. Talk to a friend, talk to somebody else. And it's actually, this goes back into that thing where you said about the post-it notes or the cards. Other people will tell you, this is a blunt society. Politeness has gone away, and which will say, this is what you're not good at, but this is what you're excellent at. And as you channel that excellent stuff, you'll see, their excitement, their passion come across. And as you spend your time that way, you'll get so much more fulfillment out of that activity. And so life's short. 2, make the most of what you got, and then 3, always have fun. So, whether we're at a chamber lunch or actually, I don't even want to use the library. The library is always a fun place. But taking out trash is not fun. I'm trying to think of something else.
Make it fun.
Yeah, you can try to make it as fun as you can. Actually, this was something.
Trash.
My house faces a walking trail in my neighborhood, and I saw this video of someone posted a sign in some other community that said, "From this point to this point, you must do a silly dance."
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And
Posted.
guess what? That's a great idea. So I'm gonna go put that outside. So when I go take out my trash, I bet I'm gonna run into one of my neighbors and I'll see them do a silly dance, and I'll reciprocate, and
Yeah, silly walks.
it's a little bit of fun. And if my enchiladas are great or if they suck, we'll have a good laugh if they suck, and we'll have a great meal if they're great. You can't lose either way. And it's that mentality. Have that positive outlook. Do good. Share your talents. Help out the community. Make good friends and be a good friend.
Could not say it any better. I think there's a lot of wisdom there, and I appreciate that's a perfect way to end this conversation. Thank you, my friend. It was
You
great
got
talking.
it. Thank you, sir.
All right.